Hello again, guys. Welcome back to another episode. I know since we've been very off and on, I've been trying to work into my ideas to create future videos. So, ideas how to create new painting tutorials. So, I've been going around gaining lots of gracious donations for Rhino doors and such to show our tutorials. And it's been, at the same time, been having a very deep look into the recent Warhammer community post on the road to Thramas. As I say, now we're now on the final road to Thramas, and as I say, most of you have already had a good read through. You've seen what we've seen bits of what we have expected. But I thought we'd try and bring it up to with all our viewers here. So if I'm looking down, I have my laptop here, so I'm having my little notes to refer to while I'm discussing them with you. So as I say, we now hit the final part of the post. So we now know that, give or take, in September, maybe at the 1st of September, or maybe even at the end of September, we're finally getting the next installment of Horus Heresy of the Road to Thramas Horus Heresy book, along with the likes of the Lionel Johnson book model as well, which I'm not gonna lie, if all goes really well, I may actually make a trip down south for it. I'm promising myself I want to get it as soon as possible, even as much as if I can just read it on the train ride back. Now, a lot of people mention it's not as many pages as normally the Heresy books are. It's like a solid, give or take, 200 pages. We'll say 250, round number to say. Now, obviously, people are just like, oh, that means there's not a lot in the book. And for me, I actually like it that way. Because if you ever seen most of the other Heresy books, you kind of end up with like 3 to 4 factions. You end up with, so we'll go with Inferno as a great example. You had the Space Wolves, you had the Thousand Sons, and then Talons of the Emperor. And for me, the issue always is that one of them turns into the third wheel of the whole page, where everyone's like, okay, these guys are cool, but the real highlight is this faction. So in my personal case, I thought the Space Wolves were the third wheel in this, because the Custodes were made to be incredibly powerful. That powerful, in fact, they had to be put into the next book to be updated to be less powerful. And then you had the Thousand Sons with all those psychic powers, which then they needed the FAQ Magnus, because Magnus was wrecking the scene. There was actually no combo that you could really think of that got past it. Never helped that Magnus had the powers to boost his skills to go D on everything. Literally dick prints all over everyone. But yes, in this case, is that exact reason why I'm happy it's 250 odd pages. Because from what we've seen, we got one good portion is Dark Angels. So we're saying like almost a good, we're going to say a good 30-50 pages. I'm not exactly counting it, because for all we know, the last pages may have more than you expect. Then we have Night Lords, who are also in there, with give or take the same amount of information as well. Which is actually a surprise, because I'm not sure what do the Night Lords need in terms of actual updating, because I'll retract that. The only real form of update I know they need is because their actual standard Legion rule, where they can gang up on units, and if they have more models than the other, they get +1 to wound, I believe. Now imagine they want to rephrase it and be like +1 to a maximum of 2+, because as we've seen in nearly any competition, somebody's taking the piss with it and is probably playing but it's +1, so even though I rolled a 1, it's still a 2, you know. I haven't seen it myself, but it's something I can very much imagine somebody try to play that on once. So there may be an update on that. Whether there'll be any bigger changes, Whether there be any changes, other changes than that, we're not sure. We'll have to see how it goes. Though it would be very interesting to see the new Terminators into the scene. And then just to top it up, we actually even have a good, give or take, 20 pages of extra Legionary stuff and Militia / Solo Auxiliary stuff. We know what most of the Legion Astarte stuff is. It's the new Deredeo toys they added onto him, or the Aquila Bombards, which they're good. Well, it's looking at a Vindicator that's slightly more armored than a Vindicator, but then loses all that potential firepower of the Demolisher Cannon for something that's weaker than that. It varies on your choices. We then also have all the Solo Auxiliary transports, which good though. I have a terrible feeling that one or two of them may be the actual stuff that Forge World have removed from the website. So that's like, yeah, well done guys. I wanted to get this Rhino, but sure, give me the rules for the tank you've stopped letting me have now. But so we know most of the basic stuff with Night Lords and the Solo Auxiliary. We kind of already have an idea what's what. So we'll go with the new boys, the Dark Angels in this. So and my personal favorite. And we're gonna look into everything new about them. So we know the basics. We know Lions there. We got the Knights. We have the Plasma Party. We have some other things in there. So, for instance, we're looking at this right now. There's a Rise Ward there. So from checking from the examples themselves, I'm actually seeing 4 page. It's going from like 100. It's like going from like page 159, and it gets to the Knights though like 163. So it gives you an idea that there's actually like potentially 4 to 5 pages of the Rite of War, if you're lucky. As is expressed, if you're lucky, it may just be like really, really long descriptions, or you really got like one really long Rite of War with all the several pages of information in case you didn't know what. But we got those, definitely. Also got the Deathwing Companion, so I actually have forgot about those. Sorry guys. The Mark IV armor, it just throws me all the wind. We then have, this is where we start getting to we don't know kind of units. So we have the Firewing Enigmatus. I'm like anyone else, we're probably butchering this word, so when I get time I'll think of a made up better name for him. So which is a Firewing Enigmatus Cabal. Whether that's like a fancy term for like, it's something fire. We kind of Firewing is fire related. Maybe Assault Marine Squads. We don't know. But probably the most interesting one in my books is the Ironwing Extindio Battle Class Automata. Now this is where we're going to start hitting a little bit of spoiled territory, because this may be the ones we know from the Lionel Johnson Primarch novels. So cue the spoiler notes. So, as long as you've seen the spoiler warnings on, so let's get to it. So, for people if you're interested, in the Lionel Johnson novel, we get the idea that because the Dark Angels are known for having a lot of unique stuff, not even Mechanicum stuff, like stuff that's been there before even the Emperor's ascent on the throne, or maybe even before the Emperor even planned his ascension. So and it's been actually confirmed that the Dark Angels have in their storage, or in their box of many secrets, Men of Iron. So for people who don't know, Men of Iron, they're like, you can kind of picture them like the like the robot men from the Dread series, or even if you've seen the Sylvester Stallone Dread, where you got that robot, and so these guys are actually terrifying because, in one sense, they are actually 100% official artificial intelligence, because Mechanicum stuff is not really artificial intelligence. It's a combination of, I want to say it's a combination of cyborg / just pure base robot with the controls for Magos. So if this is what we're based to believe on, then that would be very interesting to see how they get put into game. We only ever actually see one Men of Iron in model, which is in the Blackstone Fortress kit. So whether Games Workshop pulls the trigger on trying to create more of them, or if we even get to see them in the artwork, because we sometimes get away with when we see their pages, you'll get sneak peeks on some of the units they put in there. So that's always a big interesting thing to see. And it's always a case of how they work. The way I've seen most of the new stuff with Dark Angels lately, it all tends to steer towards like taking on like elite infantry and such, borderline that, because Caliban blades are not. They're good if you're being fluffy, but otherwise as a main, otherwise as with all your sergeants and such, I'd rather take a power fist and make sure I make certain kills with that. And then we got all the names. So we have the Madruk Cedrus. So we were given a hint about him already in one of the earlier topics on the Road to Framus. So he has that special title. He's the one that sees the death. He's the one that makes sure he sees the last of it all dead, of whatever the target is. We then have Corswain, so our basic equivalent of the first captain, or one of the more renowned captains, I should rephrase, sorry, because Astelin is still on Caliban. And then we got Big Ol' Iron himself, who comes at the bottom as well. So I say, we've seen a lot, and we all seen a lot of Lions rules. Most of it we even had a discussion about, but we had to see more on the Lion stuff. So we have yet to see his firearm weapons, his standard Sire of the Dark Angels rules, what does he give the army benefits, so forth. And then we go to the and now we're carrying on with the book. We actually even have some new stuff for the Night Lords as well. So we got we have the usual Night Terror squads, the Raptor squads. We now have the Contacar Terminator Elites, which not a bad name. Interesting is, let's see, because they seem, if the way they're going from what I see from them, they may be the most heavily armed in firepower, the most heavily armed Terminator squad going, short of the Tyrants or the Ultramarine copies. They've thrown in now. Forgive me that this is a name. This is already an existing name. I'm not big on my Night Lords and list of characters, but we have the Nakrid Thrall. We know Sevatar's been there for a while now, and I don't know whether Flame Master Mordrin. I'm not even going to pronounce that last name. In fact, and we even have Keron Opion of the Cryptoterra. I'm assuming when you got. It's like, okay, I'm trying to be scary with my big title names. I imagine he might be, I don't know, an example of that Terminator Elite. So we'll have to see on that. But as I say, in terms of new stuff, that's what we kind of got with what we're getting with the next book. But we're actually not done there, because we've seen, if most of you seen there, they have included PDFs for 2 known Dark Angel characters who are not actually in the book, but it's given as as a free PDF in the actual top comment in the actual page itself. We got Red Loss and Holgrim, and so this is an interesting one. So we got both the Master of the Dreadwing and the Master of the Deathwing, and this is where they're. I had to take a deep look into their characters and their profile set. So we got a lot of consistency. So I'm going to actually try and help us pick them out piece by piece. So we're going to start off with Farad Redloss because this is Master of the Dreadwing. Now both of these guys are already at 200 points, so they're already at a pretty much costly level, especially when the cheapest Praetor with a Defining Blade and a Defining Blade, Digital Weapons, and an Iron Halo is 185 points. So sadly, these characters are not going to be able to take on anyone with a Defining Blade, really. And I even question, they're even on a questionable thing whether they'll even stand against a chance against a Paragon Blade character. I like to think the way they are, I feel they're a little bit more like a support group rather than an actual fighters themselves. So we'll start with Farad Redloss. They're both Praetor level profiles, with the exception that Farad has a higher weapon skill than usual. So he's ballistic skill 6. Whether that makes much of a difference is the other thing. Then we got his usual equipment, the Dreadbringer's plate, a mastercrafted power axe, which is, I'm not gonna, he's already got a lot of toys. But you know, in the books, spent so long emphasizing that he has this unique looking axe, you kind of wanted to assume that meant that axe was going to be a little bit more than just a mastercrafted power axe. But that's about my only hiccup. And then he becomes the man of every grenade in the arsenal. So he has the frag grenades, crack grenades, he has rad grenades, he even has melter bombs, he even has Phosphex bombs. I mean, the only thing he doesn't have in a grenade is a Cyclops grenade, but I'm not sure how you can fit all of those grenades on one model. I know you probably wouldn't, but it's always comical to imagine like all these grenade pouches on. It becomes this rolling ball of pieces around the tabletop. So he is pretty kit out. Whether you actually use Phosphex bombs is another thing. So yeah, he is Legion. He's Legion of Astartes Dark Angels, Scion of the Dreadwing, Master of the Legion. So he gives you the right war access, independent character, Master of Arsenal, and then he's got the Warlord, Master of Destruction. So we already now know that if you're a Scion of one of the 6 wings, it's not a Warlord trait, it's actually a benefit on top of everything, which that is actually very interesting to see inside the game nowadays, because we've seen Space Wolves and they just have their own Warlord trait. They're not like their old time, like 5 or 6 edition, where Space Wolves were really kitted out then, because they had such things as picking a saga and then they told you, alright, you can have this, but you just got to do something cool with it. So this is actually quite a big one. So you have this trait along with a Warlord trait. So now we're looking into the equipment. Now this is where the equipment actually comes in more of a surprise more than anything with Redloss. So the Dreadbringer's plate itself is bog standard 2-up save, 4 pinfun. But he becomes miniature Vulcan by this point, because any melters or Phosphex attacks against him, the infun saves are now 2-up infun. So yeah, he doesn't do the half strength like Vulcan, but he gets that level of resilience like Vulcan, where it ends up like he just starts taking it on like a king. And then to top it up, he's pretty much he only gets affected by poison on a 6+. Now it's very difficult, that one, because, well, the only real people who took true advantage of poison would have been like the Grave Wardens or Acid Heavy Bolter rounds. And by that point, you feel a little bit odd if you're fighting more Dark Angels by yourself. And that's when everyone on the internet starts doing that. Dark Angels are traitors. So we get that. This is where it becomes interesting now. So Master of the Arsenal, he has access now. So before the game starts, you have 3 guns to choose for Redloss. And this is where it starts varying, because we'll go off with probably the one I don't think you'll see as much unless somebody brings Dark Angels to a demon fight. Or and because I say demon fight especially because even with this one, as a little, I questioned whether you rather use on the Thousand Sun army. Is the Selenite Shard bolt pistol. So it's a weapon made on Mars, on the Moon. Sorry, it's a Moon pistol that Emperor used to fight during the wars. Fancy stories like that. The interesting part of it is a standard bolt pistol in profile, but it's a pistol 4. So this thing is firing 4 shots a turn, and it's got the rending attack, which is also good. It's okay, but then it has the Moon Silver rule, the very rule where for some reason the powers of the moon really hurts demons and psychers for a reason. Where it actually ends up becoming, where it actually does become in its own sense the Blade of Perdition, with the actual, so yeah, it actually becomes the Blade of Perdition in terms of the shooting weapon against demons and psychers. So really fantastic if you're something like, if you actually are fighting demons, and Harry can just run in there and fire like 4 standard pistol shots, and if the guy rolled spectacularly bad, lose 4 demons in 1 round of shooting. Especially when you consider the standard demon is 2 wounds each. So that's the most. But this again, it's a weapon I can only ever see use if you're actually seeing a demon army and you're going, oh sweet, I'll use the pistol. Then we're going to now to the 2 more prominent weapons, I'll say. So we have the Tyranthian pattern neutral shredder carbine. Let's try that again, eh? The Tyranthian pattern neural shredder carbine. Yeah. Alright, but yes, it's a similar weapon to what the Kaladesh Assassin has, but it's like, I imagine it's like a little standard, less like pit gun, little standard gun of some sort, like an MIT or something. But it's an 18-inch range weapon. It's AP2 poison, assault 2, 4 poison. So yeah, it's like best way to describe it. It's an AP2 split. You can't really think of the alternatives. So yes, 2 shots. The assault weapon, poison 4+, ignores cover, and it's pinning, and it's 18-inch range, which is not bad. The poison is a very good favorite, and ignore cover also is a favorite. So great if you like. It nitpicks in areas. So I can only really see it as a great weapon if you suddenly decided to harass jet bikes or the rapier turrets or anything that just has like less small units. So I imagine that's a great weapon if you're harassing small units. Otherwise, if you're shooting on a big unit, it's kind of it annoys them, but it's not enough where a person's sitting there going, "Oh shit buckets! This is going terribly wrong. Help! Help!" So then that's that kind of weapon, and then we get to the last one, which is I think it's probably everyone's favorite because it's got it's big gun, high strength, etc., etc., and that's the Magagron pattern automatic pulse pistol. And this is the one now where it's like, lack of a better term, guys, it's an AP2 Infernus pistol with lance and shock pulse. So it's 6-inch range, strength 8 AP2. It's not melter, so I'm sorry about that misinterpretation. It's a strength 8 AP2 pistol with lance and shock pulse, which is very interesting because lance itself is a fantastic rule, but then the fact it's an actual pistol weapon that actually has the shock pulse rule. So people who don't know that rule, that's the rule you see on like Sakaran Venatus and the like, that can force any tank to force snapfire, even super heavy. So if you had super heavy problems, you could literally shoot something like that at the tank, and watch it as it can unable to fire its main gun or fire its template weapons because a super heavy is somehow forced to snapfire because of such things. So it is a very useful trick. And again, it comes back to how will I see. It's a lot of this is still how will this work in game, but they're all very potent weapons. Now this is where it comes. Then we got Silence of the Deathwing. So we now have 2 ideas what 2 of the wings do. One was the Deathwing when we covered in the last book, where you get to reroll the first failed hit roll in any combat phase. While you're in the challenge, anyway. So it also counts, and that also counts toward Mastercrafted. So yeah, you could actually sit there and go, if you're, well, I already had the ideas now where I was going to have a Praetor who's a Scion of the Deathwing, and he just sits there in the challenge and goes, I have reroll two, I can do 2 rerolls in a game with my Divining Blade. And because there's a sword, freeze to hit, depending on the scenarios. So I already have some cool ideas here. Dreadwing is not as powerful as that though. This one's more of a terrain hopping one. So rather than actually rolling for a difficult terrain test like you normally do, 2 dice, pick the highest, you could instead actually just opt to just go 4 inches. So this is actually I want to call it like Schrodinger's cat, because part of you wants to go roll higher every time. You know, you want to believe that you can get 5 inches or 6 inches. But then there's times where you could just go 4 inches without having to try. So it's a very unique, interesting spot where you put yourself in. Now, this is where my only criticism comes with Red Loss. It's his Warlord trait. So he has Tank Hunters and Wrecker, which is fantastic, you know, because Tank Hunters is a great rule. But that applies to him. It does, however, apply to the heavy weapon, if he's in the unit, to a heavy weapon in that unit. Which is then the problem, because the only other time we could see it really working, because, let's be honest, Red Loss needs to get close enough to use his guns. The only other time it's going to work is on the Reaper Autocannon. Otherwise, if you want to do with the last cannon team, you're better off just getting a Siege Breaker who has that rule, and he'll be cheaper than Red Loss at this point. So that's where that Warlord trait, I think, is kind of a swing and miss on the for a character like Red Loss. But that's my only criticism there. We're then moving on to our other friend, Holgrim. So this is Holgrim, who's Master of the Deathwing. So we now actually have like 2 masters of one of the wings, though it's very most likely we'll not see any of the other commanders for the 6 wings, because I don't think they were ever mentioned for it. So again, weapons, he's 200 points. He's got the standard profile of a Praetor. He's not got anything bigger than that. He has the Deathbringer's Aegis, the Viridian Blade, Falkite Charger, and digital lasers. So in most cases, he's already going in with 6 attack space on the charge already. So we already got the whole thing here. He's Legion of Stark Angels, Scion of the Deathwing, Master Legion, independent character, Grim Resolve, and he has the Child of Terror Warlord trait instead of, you know, rolling for one. So that's another good one, because that means he gets the... Correct me if I'm wrong with this, you can put this in the comments, where I believe he gets +1 to wound with that. I think it's reroll 1, sorry. Reroll 1s to wound with that weapon. And now that's when we'll start checking the weapons itself. By the way, before everyone forgets, both these guys have rules that only may be taken as the Loyalist faction. So anyone who actually wants to be the Luther side, you're going to be disappointed. These 2 aren't going to work with you. So now we're going on to the rules. This is where so let's see how it goes. So we have the Deathbringer's Aegis. It's Calipraki Terminator armor, which you could, at this point, you already got the idea. It also means now that if you just want to use the model, the rules, you could just take the standard Dark Angel Praetor in Calipraki armor and just say, there we go, it's Holgrim. That's if you don't want to put into the effort of conversions, other parts into the hobby, etc, etc. So his armor actually allows him to reroll all feel no pain saves when he's got the suit on. So he's going to get some good. So we now already know he's going to get some good feel no pain saves. The Viridian Blade. Now this is where it comes interesting. It is a strength 6 AP 2 power sword. So it does follow benefits of Mastery of the Blade, which is mastercrafted, 2-handed, and has the Reaping Blow. Now, so for people who don't know, Reaping Blow is the special rule where you drop your initiative, but you gain an extra attack if you're in base contact with more than one model. So make sure you're in base contact with 2 models, you got an extra attack. So we're now already taking into account that Holgrim could have potentially 7 attacks on the charge. Make sure I do my math right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, DT, charge, sword. Yeah, so 7 attacks there. So 7 attacks with this strength 6 AP 2 sword. Now, he's not obviously going to be able to take on like characters as we mentioned before. I feel like he's another guy where you could have your squad takes on the captain or the characters, tries to punch him to death, whatnot. He feels like the guy who helps basically kick the crap out of all these elite units that are with him. And this is where we start getting to the next rule, which is Grim Resolve. Now, this is where the Deathbringer's Aegis comes into account. So when Holgrim is reduced to 2 wounds, that's when he's got the standard 5 up Feel No Pain kicks in. But when he gets to his last wound, he's got 4 Feel No Pain. So when you go into like the last 2 wounds, before you know it, he's in there going 2 up with a 5 up Feel No Pain with rerolls. Worse off if he even has a 4 up. Now at this point, that's very good against most of standard stuff. I would not expect as much if you're trying to... This is why you don't want him taking on like a very big character. If he took on one of the smaller captains, yes, as long as he doesn't have a power fist, which will work. But anything that tries to threaten you with instant death is a little bit out of the equation on there. Otherwise, aside from those, he hits pretty damn hard on other units. And as we mentioned before, because he's got the Scion of the Deathwing, mean he gets to re-roll one of his misses in the combat. So he does have 7 attacks, with 2 of them he can re-roll, and re-roll 1s to wound in the combat. It makes him very, very tough. He's a real hitter in the game, this should say. So, as you can imagine, I'm already been... In that time I've been reading this as well, I've already been trying to make my plans for my own future alternatives of Holgrim and Red Loss. Red Loss already actually on the work, so got the lovely model donated by one of our team members, Kevin. So you know the classic, the 40k Death Guard with the big bulk. Give him a little bit of cleanup, get rid of the intestines and maggots and whatnot on him. And then to this point, we'll have to try and talk about adding magnets to the to his one hand, so he can start having his choice of many guns. And hopefully, when the next time we do a video, we'll be able to mention the work we do about Holgrim. But that is all it for today. As I say, I'm not with all the donations with Rhino Doors. I'm planning to once again return to working on painting different Legion methods using Rhino Doors, because I not have all the models resources. I do intend to start showing more alternative ways to paint you all guys, and I'm hoping everyone can throw in their ideas, tell us what they would love to see, and I'll do my very best to contribute it to the videos. So this is our episode today, guys. I'm very happy you all been around to see it, and thank every one of you again for staying around with us so long. You know our usual gimmick, the gimmick of everyone, like, share, subscribe, etc, 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 etc. And I'll see you all soon for the next video.